P&R with Adam R. Welcome to 3P&R. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Bishop Rita Strugala. Rita, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. We'll start with this. You're a bishop. What put you on that path? What got you here?
I have had a lifelong fascination with the paranormal. I had an experience when I was really young, like 5 years old, and it really shaped my entire trajectory of my life. I always wanted to, it's funny because being an exorcist is not what I wanted at all. I went out of my way to stay away from anything that was really dark, but I wanted to help people. And it's been a long journey. And I'm telling you, the Lord worked on me for over a year for me to finally say, okay, I'll do it. I did not want anything to do with this calling whatsoever, but He knows best. And we've helped a lot of people. So that's what matters.
Well, sure. Especially when there's people in your parish that are suffering, right? They're being tormented.
Absolutely.
So in your years, obviously the paranormal's what caught your attention. What are some of the more profound things you've come across?
Oh, goodness. Okay. There are things that just kind of stand out that may not look significant to other people, but are really significant to me because it was such a learning experience, such as you always hear that the devil is the father of all lies, and he is. That's the truth. But what nobody ever really tells or can do unless you're in that situation is to see just how subtle the lies are, and that really make you question yourself and everything else. So it's little things like that really stand out to me, but it's also the really big things that, like we helped a veteran. He was a Marine. He had gotten PTSD real bad. He'd been in a IUD, and he had all sorts of trouble. And these demons that were in him made him so violent that if we had not had 11 people with us that day, I don't think we would have walked out of there, all of us, without either being hurt or, God forbid, killed. It was extremely dangerous. And then you've got pretty much the gamut of everything in between of objects moving, levitating, being thrown. I was thrown into a wall 4 feet away head first by something I couldn't see. So it runs the gamut. There's all kinds of crazy things that happen.
What's it take to become a bishop, if you don't mind me asking?
A lot of studying, a lot of faith, a lot of wherewithal within yourself. For me, the hardest part was actually believing that I could do something like this. I mean, even just to be a bishop, I grew up I was Baptist on my mom's side, Lutheran on my dad's side. When I was old enough to decide for myself, I joined a Episcopal church. Then I married a Catholic. And so, all of these different ideologies together, all these different, cultures and things like that together. And I was not sure that I really wanted to actually even belong to a church. The more that I helped people with the paranormal, and the more that the cases got dark and they needed a place to go to talk to or someone to help them, they were always turned away. Every church I ever sent them to had turned them away. Usually it would be because they're not part of my parish, or, they're not strong enough in faith, or, whatever the excuse. What I didn't actually understand until much later was that there are very few churches that even teach about this subject. There's a lot of preachers that don't even think demons exist today. Huh. So it's a battle. It's a definite battle.
Well, it's the greatest trick the devil ever did, right? Is convince the world he didn't exist.
Exactly right. Very well said.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially with modern science, it gets tough. Can you prove or disprove these things? As we come to learn more about what we don't know through science, it makes it harder for us to cast questions upon it, right? Because what I've learned so far, the human brain, and I say this a lot, the most complex computer on planet Earth, it has receptors. And I personally think, I don't speak for everyone, but I personally believe that our consciousness and our soul are the one and the same. It's just raw energy inside of a vessel, like our body.
Yep.
And when people are in weakened states of mind, whether it be drugs or alcohol or even depression, because, I've gotten depressed. I get depression, and it takes me to recognize it, to combat it. But even in those weakened states, you can allow those little voices in, right?
Yes.
And so when you're in a weakened state of mind, I can imagine a different energy could just kind of slip in. Again, it's a receptor. Because if you think about when you pass, your consciousness / your soul leaves your body, the vessel's dead, but the energy continues on. And
absolutely.
So, that being said, it's like a computer. If someone could hack your computer and take over your computer, I can imagine a very enthusiastic energy could hack your body. That's
actually a great analogy. I hope you don't mind if I use that sometime.
No, by all means.
That is a great analogy, and you're absolutely correct. And for the longest time, it was out there that the only way you could become possessed is if you invite something in. That's not altogether true. You can have a massive head injury, and that can make you into a wide open channel. If you don't know how to block these energies, you'll have good and bad going through you. And if the bad can get a foothold in there, that's what they're going to do. It doesn't mean that you invited it in. It just means that you were sensitive, did not know how to shut it down. That's another thing that's not readily taught, is how to shut these things down. And for me, even harder than that, though, is it doesn't work the same way for everyone.
Right.
What works for me to shut it down may not do a thing for you.
Right.
You kind of have to know what works for you. And in order to find that out, you may become possessed first, and then you start working on it and that. But it's still such a stigma out there that, people become possessed because they invited in. That's true. You can definitely get it that way, but there are other ways too.
Yeah. I always example humanity. If you have an ambitious person who wants to get, again, into your computer, they're going to hack. And so, and not all energies, again, this is my own opinion, but some of the possessions, just through, some of the off podcast interviews I've done, they're not all just evil. There's some just like energies that desperately want a body back. They didn't want to go to the next plane, or for whatever reason, they're in limbo, but they want to utilize your vessel, good or bad. And in either case, it's not good because someone's taking control.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And sometimes it can be hard to tell which is which.
Right.
Is this demonic, or is this just a mean, cranky spirit kind of thing? I have a few gifts that I use that, we all have gifts. I absolutely believe that. Whether you choose to develop it or not is your own, path.
Well, have you heard what my thoughts on that were?
No.
I think everyone on the planet has a similar brain, right? The same hardware. It's the different software downloads that you have that make you unique from the next, or if you hone those skills, because there's so many cases of somebody getting a head injury and then next day they can play the piano on a master's level.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely right.
So I agree with you there. If you hone a skill, you could, at any skill, like this could be exampled in anything. Like I shoot pool. If you want to be a great pool player, it's 90% mental. You have to apply those skills / gifts to that. Yes,
exactly right. Not everybody gets their information the same ways, which speaks to exactly what you just said. If they have a different, software downloaded, then they'll get their information in a different way. What made the group that I've got that helps me with this is that each one of us has, of course, our own gifts, but they're all in different ways, independent from one another, which gives us the big picture. Once you put all the little pieces together, you can see the big picture. And that's been just a godsend, honestly, because I've worked with priests that don't have, I don't want to say they don't have discernment. They don't have maybe the degree of discernment they thought they had.
Right.
And once you get one demon out, they're like, okay, we're good. Let's go to Waffle House or whatever.
Right.
It's like, no, we're not done. We're not even close to done. The other thing I've learned, is that generally speaking, when I show up for one of these things, if say yesterday I spoke with you, you've got a problem, I'm coming over today to help you out. Yesterday you had what I was picking up was like 10 large demons in you. By the time I get there tomorrow to you, you're going to have a whole lot more in you because they know I'm coming. They know what I'm going to do, and they're going to bring in reinforcements.
Right.
And never, ever have they put the biggest one out there to fight first. Never. They send you out the minions, and they try to wear you down so that your last fight is the biggest and baddest of all when you're tired and don't even know if you can go on anymore. That's what they do. That's, perfect warfare, actually, for them.
Right. It makes sense because that's a strategy we would use as humans. And, I do a lot of off podcast interviews. I reach out to people, get, probably 5-10 minute conversations, some of them longer. One guy scared me a bit. For him, what he said about his possession is that it's symbiotic. It seems to be that he can't do anything about it for whatever reason. He's tried priests. He's tried out different religions. What's going on, according to him, is that when they come in to help him, it like leaves and waits for them to leave and then comes back.
Yep. Yeah. They can hide. They can hide in your bloodstream. They can hide, they can go anywhere they want kind of thing.
What he's telling me, and here's what I get from him.
Yeah.
He had an injury as a child. He was playing in an alleyway where he lived in Chicago, fell down, got a significant head injury. And so his brain's in a constant weak state, as he described it. And it sounds to me, because, again, your brain's a receptor, it could be that it altogether leaves the vessel, and they come in to help. They wait for them to leave, and then he re-enters through the vessel. In other words, he's using the Bluetooth connection to get in and out of this guy as needed. And that seems that bothered me to hear that.
Yes, and what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to learn how to shut that down. He's not learned how to do that yet.
Yeah.
To shut that door in their face so they can't come back in willy-nilly. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. But it can be done, and we have done it. But you've also got people that have also some mental illness going on at the same time.
Yeah. And
that can get really messed up because I've done the dissociate disorder. I've had people that have had that. And unfortunately, some of those personalities that are in there can mimic the demons. So even when you get the demons out, if this personality liked that, they're going to start acting like that again. They won't have the same strength that the other one had, that kind of thing. But I mean,
it's like an imprint.
Yeah. You kind of sit back and go, well, wait a minute now. Is he really better off? Because you wonder, it's like,
when you're approaching an exorcism, how do you discern the difference between just flat out psychological issues versus there's something there?
They are going to have a psychological eval. I want to know what's going on with them medically. And then I'm also at that same time, while they're doing that, I'm also getting, I get information from my guides and things. And I go over that. I see how it looks with whatever the report is. I guess I don't know how to.
It sounds like it's a very tough vetting system.
It is, and I don't want to. I want to make sure that I'm doing the best I can by them.
Sure.
And if that means that I can't help them this way right now because they're physical and psychological self needs healing of another kind, I'm fine with that. But I will help any way I can. But I have worked with my guides for almost a decade now, and they've never steered me wrong. And it all starts out for me. And this just happened recently again. It just started out that when my gifts started to get more pronounced, I noticed that I'd be like out eating at a restaurant or something, and I'd feel somebody staring at me, and I'd turn to look, and their eyes would be pitch black. And it's like, okay. And then they would go back to the normal color. And I thought, that man's possessed. And, and that's kept to this day, where now if they've got like a lot in them, their eyes don't go back to the right color. They'll just stay black. That's the only way I can see them until they've been exorcised out. That's just one of the gifts. My guides, I a lot of times I will ask them, especially looking at, because I know what they're looking for. The demons are looking for somebody who is young, who is strong in physical stature, that can fight us. That's, if they can hurt you physically, that's what they want to do. They want to destroy you. I mean, that's the end game, but they want to destroy them too. So if I'm walking into a situation like I was with that Marine, it's like, okay, he's younger than me. He's been taught to fight. He's a heck of a lot stronger than me. We're going to need some, people to help to keep him down so he doesn't hurt somebody, right, and, or himself. And it was, if I had not had 11 people there that day, I don't even want to think what the outcome would have been. It was extremely violent.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things. One, if you want to see the true strength of someone that's beyond psychological repair, look at people on hard drugs like angel dust or meth. They're superhuman. Yep. They're like superhumans. And then to support what you're saying, some people say, well, this sounds like nonsense. It's good and evil battle. Okay, so be it. So it's because you can't perceive it, as you could call it nonsense. But if you want examples of that in humanity, right now in the Ukraine, what Russia's doing, that's the same kind of battle. It's just at a smaller scale.
Yep.
Lower stakes, one would say.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, and, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, because a lot of people, I personally have never witnessed anything in life. Nothing. That's why I'm doing a podcast. I don't doubt anything. I don't walk around with filters on. And the more I speak to people like you and some of the other people I speak to, it allows me to evolve the way I think. I don't want to be set in any certain way. I want to learn and then from there expand. And so when I hear about the battles of good and evil, I cannot say definitively that that's not true, because we see humanity do it all the time, constantly. And it's scary because in our realm of life, both parties that are committing or at this war, both of them kind of think they're right? They don't know. They don't understand that they're wrong or right or vice versa. So now you have something happen at an energy level. It's greater than us. We can definitely not perceive it. And that battle, I could see it. Like it would be stacked, especially against us. We're mortal. And that's the big problem. We're immortal.
Absolutely. See, I didn't understand when I first started out with this. I couldn't understand, why does God need me for this? I could not reconcile that. It's like, God can do anything. Why doesn't he just take them out of these people? And then, of course, then you go, well, because of the gift of free will. So God is not going to overstep his bounds. He gave us the gift of free will. He's not going to overstep mine, yours, or anybody else's. That's the way that goes. And I'm thinking, well, but why does that spirit, why do you need me physically to get them out? Because I know when I'm doing an exorcism, I can see the angels. I can see Michael standing there ready to use his sword. But we have to get it out of that physical body before the spiritual can go back after the spiritual. That's where the big hang up comes in.
Well, here's the other thing for you too. Now, understand God, I call an architect. If you look at our universe, and now we're discovering more than just our universe, other universes. It's an insane number of planets and stars and just abundance. So he's an architect of something great, something large. Now, absolutely. Flip it to you. Rita owns an ant farm. You love your ants. It's a big ant farm too. It's a huge one. Like imagine like a 10-gallon tank. You had a big ant farm. You're very proud of them. Is Rita going to notice every ant that's harmed or sick? Or are you going to notice every little atrocity that happens? It's impossible. You're the architect of this world and you care about them as a whole. You provide food and water and all these resources, but will you notice the one ant injured? Or you can't, it's very unlikely. If you did, maybe you would intervene or otherwise, then you would hope that you would put ambassadors down in that ant farm, and ants that have a greater perception, a greater understanding that could help with the immediate problem down on the ground. you being one,
Right.
other people being that, cops are out there with these instincts, and there's humans out there that care about other humans. That's the only way I would be able to do it. If I had an ant farm, I'd have to program certain ants to be down there to handle this work for me, because I can't very well notice everything. It's impossible, even for a great architect like God.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. And the people that you do help, a lot of them, after this is over, and, they've got to be diligent afterwards as well, because, they know you have a weakness. They're going to come back. And what is so cool about it is, though, how many of the people have gone on to help other people.
Right.
And it's like, I get it, God. That's why they need to be saved. Everybody, I don't judge who does what, as far as, are you going to do great things when you're done with this? That's not up to me. I don't, all I care about is that you are finally able to live up to your potential without this other thing in you that is trying to destroy it, literally.
Right. It's a good point too, because the message, there's clear messages all the time, and it can be very innocent. It could be one guy who sits down with a guitar and he writes this beautiful song about, perhaps humanity or whatever it may be. And then some years later, some kid sitting there and he's listening to this song, and he receives a message from the song, something very positive. And that kid turns around one day, becomes a leader of an organization that helps the homeless.
Yes.
It starts like that. It's these little messages that we don't pick up on, not everyone anyway, but it takes one person to hear it to turn around and then make something great of it for everyone.
That is so true. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help one another. If there wasn't so much of the bickering and that kind of thing going on, I mean, just think of how much more we could be doing. Right. I mean, there's still good people out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's, but it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle. But I love to see the aftermath of it, where they feel good, where their doctors say they no longer need whatever medicines they're on or whatever. I mean, that's happened so many times. It's a feeling I just can't really even put into words. It's just that you were fortunate enough to help them to feel as they do now.
Indeed.
That's great.
Unfortunately, in our society, sickness is a business, right? Because if tomorrow you cured cancer, how many facilities, nurses, and doctors who specialize in that go away? Billions of dollars of resources gone tomorrow if you cured tomorrow. I mean, and it's sad to say. You would think that they would take those facilities and repurpose them for something else at said point.
Right.
But, that's humanity. So
right.
For you, in all the years of researching the paranormal, outside of the case you discussed, what are some of the other more profound cases you come across?
Well, let's see. I had one that it still blows my mind. It started out, I had a phone call message. It had gone to my voicemail, and I was listening to him, trying to get caught up. And she started out with, "I think my cat's possessed. Can you come help me?" And I'm like, what? what? So I called her up, and she talked like a little girl. She talked like she was maybe 12 years old. But you could tell she was in a much bigger body. And I asked her, I said, well, what's going on there? And she said, my boyfriend said that I attacked him. And she said, and he had to call the police, and said it took them 6 policemen to get her in the back of that car. They took her to the hospital, and she attacked the physicians in the hospital. They got her in the psych ward. She stayed in there for about 7 days. They did an eval. The only thing they came out with was she has depression. And she was saying, and I said, okay. I said, when did this happen? She said, I just got home. My boyfriend told me I have to call somebody to get some help, because this cat wants to scratch me every time I walk in the room. And I'm like, you're worried about the cat? I'm just like, wow. Okay. So we came in and we got there to help, and it was crazy. We were right in the middle of 2 gangs' turf. And there were gang members. The boyfriend of the lady that we helped was a gang member. And so now we're going, you know what, if we screw anything up whatsoever, we're not getting out of here. and so that was a little bit added pressure there. But her cat was reacting to the demonic that was in her. And she, for the police to come when a gang member calls because they're being beat up by their girlfriend. I mean, the whole scenario is just wild. This is crazy.
I can picture that.
I know. It was just, oh my gosh, so surreal. And that exorcism went on for quite a while. She had so much in her, but her background, she was so traumatized. Her mother tried to kill her and her twin sister, injecting Drano into them at age 4.
Wow. Sister
died. This girl almost died. Then they put her in, her mom's still in the mental facilities, probably won't be getting out. And she went into the system, I guess from what, I was told was that it was broken for her. Basically, it didn't go well. And she just wanted to be loved and validated so much that she would literally do anything for it. I suspect that some of the abuse she went through when she was young is what made her a wide open channel. She had so many different spirits in her. I mean, it was never ending. And about 11 o'clock that night, I think we got there, it was around 2 p.m. At 11 o'clock that night, her boyfriend, the gang member, comes in, wants to know, when are you going to be done? And I'm like, and I mean, he was sitting right there for some of it, helping to hold her because she was getting so violent. And I told him, I said, look, I said, she's not done. I said, there's more in her. He says, well, I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
Wow.
I said, okay, do you want us to leave? Yeah. So that was one of maybe 2 that I remember that we were not allowed to finish. So today I'm sure she's every bit as bad off as she was, if not worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, especially if it festers within her and it starts learning to acclimate to her environment, right? Because now it has a permanent place.
Definitely. And he had them in him as well, but he would never, you can't get rid of the demons you enjoy playing with. And I don't think I know he didn't want us to do anything with him. That's, because I asked him, I said, well, what about you? I said, I know you're having problems. I said, you're having problems with your stomach, aren't you? And he looked at me, he said, how did you know that? I said, because I can feel it. They're making me feel it. I know what they're doing to you. They're putting claws into you. I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's just stubborn.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And I mean, it's not like I charge anything. I've never charged anybody anything ever and never will. So, but you've got to want it. And you can't want it for someone else. You can't go, okay, well, I'll do it for my wife. She wants it done. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to want it 100% for it to be effective.
Has there been a time you went to a case and you personally could not handle it? You didn't want to be there anymore?
Let's see. Well, yes. Yep. There was. In fact, I think we all felt that way after a while because it just felt like we weren't getting anywhere. And they have to give up their free will to let this out. And if they don't let it go 100%, you can't get everything out. It won't. And it's happened to be a house full of possessed people, literally. This guy had been a satanic priest for 10 years. Now he wanted to denounce it and start over because he owed too much to the demons, or to Satan is what he said. And Satan is starting to collect and now he wants to stop that. Well, we helped him. We did get a lot out of him, but we didn't get it all out of him. And honestly, he didn't want all of it out of him. As the hours ticked on and that, he was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I said, well, we can come back and do some more. And it's like, no, I think I'm better off now. I've only got a few left in me. I'm going to be fine. And I'm like, you're listening to those lies? And so it was bad. And then there was another guy that was at their place who had major problems, and he was only going to do it because the satanic priest guy wanted him to get some help, which again is not going to help because you have to want it. This is something that you have to do for you. Nobody can do it for you.
Right.
You have to want it. You have to mean it, or it don't work.
Yeah, you have to have the will to go through it. I agree. That can be said for anything, period. If you walk around all day just saying to yourself, like, well, just how it goes. You gotta willfully want to make something happen in anything.
Absolutely. It comes down to how afraid are you of what is happening to you now? How badly do you want to live? How badly do you want to get away from this?
Well, that brings me to this other point too. The passengers. There are these people I've spoken to or speak to, because there's more than I expected, where I can't even call it a possession, more than their influence, right? It's something that just goes through life with them, and it kind of holds them in a state of, they don't excel, but they don't decline. They're just right, I guess right down the middle. And they have these passengers that are in their lives, and it seems to tarnish their relationships and prevent them from doing better in, say, work environments.
Yes.
That's a tough one, because
it is. And that's what they want. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make they don't want you basically to know it's them. They want you to think, this is you, this is your life, this is your luck, this is the way it is. Maybe you should just go kill yourself, and they will put these thoughts in your head kind of thing. And the biggest boon to them is if they can get you to harm yourself. They can harm you if they want to, but they like it better if you do it.
Right. And
that's what they want. They want to destroy. That's their only agenda, is to get rid of the human race. They hate you. They cannot be place-sated. You can't talk to them. They're not going to be reasonable. It's just, that is who they are. That is their mission. And I think once you get that in your psyche, where you actually understand that you can't reason with these things, you can't, buy a deal with it. I mean, either you want this for yourself, or this is your life. This is it.
Perhaps they should start teaching people to, I think the word demon in modern society, it's almost like a stigma, right? So if you speak to people who seem mentally, undone, and/or they're having these experiences, make them identify the con artist, right? Like, are the voices in your head, did he appear like a con artist? Because a con artist is going to say things to you in such a subtle manner, it's almost going to sound like what they're telling you is a good deal, or it makes sense. And if you could identify the voice in your head as being a con artist, maybe you could identify it as being something else, right? Maybe you remove the word demon to him and start saying, does it sound like a con artist is speaking to you? Yeah. Because a con artist wants to keep you down, where they could benefit from you long term. That's their goal. And that's basically the same thing as what a demon does, right?
Yeah, basically it is. And like I said, and what you said, they're so very subtle. So very subtle. I remember that one of them that we were doing, and it just struck me, because I was telling him it was his time to go. And he said, no. He says, you got the right verbiage. He said, but it's not the right time. And I said, when Jesus Christ is standing in front of you and he's telling you to go, it's time. And he's going, oh, but it's not the right time. It's not the right time.
And I knew that's another thing I wanted to ask you.
They're twisting the Catholic rite of exorcism was what it was trying to do. Only I don't always go by that. I go by whatever I feel like I have to do at that minute. Right. If it's more charismatic, or if I need to do the litany, if I need, whatever I need, that's what I'm going to do. But I just remember to this day, I remember thinking, how subtle of a lie is that? And how easy it would be for someone to believe that. Right. I'm not leaving. I haven't gone anywhere. So therefore it's not time. I mean, it's a chess match.
Well, here's a scary thought. Now, planet Earth is 4 billion-ish years old. I'd spoken to many of people about this. Okay. And let me tell you what put me on this path of thinking this way. I watched this show on History Channel. It's about mankind disappearing and how long would it take all our structures to be taken over by the Earth, where you would not even know we were here. And it's in the millions of years, marks, etc. But that's millions of years. Now, rewind time just a couple billion years ago. If there was another society, right, things living here prior to man, predates religion, predates everything we know. And they perish and their energy is left behind. There's a residual, right?
Yep.
After 1 billion years, there's going to be no way we could know that they were here ever. No structures, no buildings, nothing. There'd be nothing. 1 billion years is plenty of time to completely erase the existence of anything. Now, these entities, their energy is residual, like us. Not all, maybe some of them have passed on to the next level or what it may be, but their time here is no longer. They're basically the most ancient existence here. How many of these things you come across might be, energies that predate humanity, and they don't recognize our religious speech. They don't recognize our wills. They don't recognize anything, because it's not easy to say, well, God made us and that's it. God, the architect, made everything.
Absolutely.
From the start, which means that something else could have lived here prior to us. And so their religions might be different. The only thing that separates their religion from our religion and like religion today is basically literature, right? Words, small differences. Because at the end of the day, religion's a great thing. It's got a positive message in it, a really good positive one, until you put it in the hands of a very charismatic, self-serving person. And then it changes a little bit. So now I try to imagine if you're coming across an let's say you go to a case and you want to exorcise this demon from this person, but this entity, this energy predates everything. And so the practices you would use commonly to remove them might not work on that particular entity.
Correct. And that's when I go with what I'm in my gut, what I'm being told. I mean, I can feel when I start an exorcism, I can feel Christ step into me. I am his vessel at that point. The other girl that does the exorcism with me, who's been doing it as long as I have, her name is Colleen, and she has St. Michael. She works as his vessel during these exorcisms. I cannot tell you how many, well, I can give you a good example. That one that I was telling you about that was so violent with the Marine, we had 11 people there. And this man was in the bathroom when we got there with a knife, screaming in Latin, and was plunging this 6-inch bladed knife through the bathroom door, did it 13 times. We finally got him to come out of the bathroom, and I still needed to get him in a chair where I could kind of chain him down because he was, violent. He's standing there throwing a knife hand to hand. And I told him, I said, look, you don't need that thing and you know it. And he just took a cigarette and put it out on the guy's tongue. Does not flinch, nothing. He was burning holes in the arm. He'd take that knife and he would rip it down the guy's arm, his face. And I told him, I said, you don't need that. And he's looking over, and of all the people that are in there and that, he looks at Colleen and he says, and I swear to God, I've got this on tape. He says, Michael, are you ready to come do this again? You really want me to kick your butt again? There was nobody there in that house named Michael, except St. Michael. So they know the spiritual entities that we have with us when we're there, and they can call them by name.
Well,
so
they got better perception than us for start, right? Because if
God, yes,
you're talking about anything that's on a realm that's vibrating at a different wavelength than us, they can perceive. We can't perceive. It's impossible.
Well, and what's dangerous too, though, is once they get into a person, they have all their memory banks. They have everything you ever wanted to know about this person, everything they've ever done, everything, hopes, dreams, everything, because they're hijacking that computer.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's data. Data is stored via energy everywhere currently, right? And so, like I say this a lot too. When you're transferring, let's say I send you an email, it's going through the internet. But it's being transferred in the form of energy, ones and zeros, and then being, interpreted on your end to read it. So data is there, just like in the brain. When you store data, you could, if you tap that energy, you could, that's what, by the way, that's what science is doing now. They're attempting to remap human brains with the idea of uploading and downloading consciousness. Now, I personally think that they'll make replicas, but I don't think you can make an exact I don't think you could take someone's consciousness and put it in a computer, personally. Not yet, anyway. But that being said, yeah, I can see that. If you're tapping into someone's energy and their data, you can interpret everything they remember or everything they know.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, that I know that he could see the spiritual beings that were with us is because when Michael it's hard to explain. Colleen would use Michael's sword and put it down through the person. Of course, it's not a sword you can see.
Right.
But you can see the look of agony on this person's face as it's slicing through them. It's just, it's just the most, it blows your mind. I mean, just sit back and to watch it is just like, did I really see that?
Well, keep it in mind when people meditate. So let's put a parallel to that.
Okay.
When people meditate, like let's say I want to shoot pool. For me to shoot pool, I have to relax myself beforehand, clear my mind of all the nonsense in my day, because again, it's a very mental sport. And so you're visualizing what you want to accomplish, right? That's part of the idea of meditation. Yep. And almost so how much of what you could see in your mind versus what you do physically are different? Well, it's not very different. It's not
very different. You're exactly right. I tell you what, this is a little bit off that subject, but with St. Michael, this was one that just surprised me. We were helping a young couple and their friend who all lived in a small apartment. And we went there, and it was the two girls that were really bad. And so we had done one girl first. Her name is Jess. I'll say Jess. And the other one, I'll just call her Anne. Jess was done. She was sitting in the living room. She was watching as we did Anne. And we had gotten a lot out of her. And there was still at least one more in there. And I could feel it. And I got down in front of her and I said, look around in there. I said, you see any of your other cronies in there? I said, no, they've gone. You saw what St. Michael did to them. I said, now you can either save yourself some pain and go right now, or you can wait and we'll just pull you out with the sword. I said, but Christ is right here and he's telling you to leave now. All of a sudden, the front door opened wide and slammed shut. And it was gone. Michael had taken it off. And it took me a minute I looked around at the others and I said, did you see that? Did you hear that? I just never had that happen. And I had locked that front door. That's the first thing Jess said was that door was locked. I saw you lock it.
You know what else you're doing, by the way? So again, back to the thing that might not even understand current day religious jargon, right? It predates us.
Yes.
If there's a group of strong-willed, strong-minded people convincing a weaker-minded person to strengthen their mind to remove, let's not even say a demon. Let's say there's a weak-minded person that, they have other mental battles they're going with, whether it be, their fear of agoraphobia. They don't want to go outside. With strong-minded people supporting this person to help transform their mind to a stronger state of being, great feats could be happening. And so when you have an energy that's inside of a person and there's a group of people that are strong-willed and they're speaking against you must leave, and they're encouraging this weaker-minded person to help kick it, that very well can have an effect.
Oh, it does. It definitely does. Yes, I've seen that before too. It's amazing. I mean, the whole thing is such a chess game. It's a very mental thing. You've got to really think out these moves and that to try to outmaneuver them. I have had recordings from some sessions, and what got me was some of the insight of some of these demons. The one of them that was the really, really, really strong one that was within the Marine. He was absolutely fascinated by trees. Absolutely fascinated by trees. Kept having the guy go take him for rides because he wanted to see the trees. He said something in the recordings about their, that it had been, I don't know how many thousands of years. and everywhere they're at, it's a dry, barren place, and it's nothing but gray. There's no colors. And the trees just absolutely fascinated him. And that's why he wanted to stay in this host body, so that he could see and experience all the things he can't experience when he's, at the dry places. And I never thought of that. I had never thought of that before.
That's interesting, because again, when you're in that realm, I don't think time behaves the same as we do here on Earth. Here on Earth,
it does.
The Earth rotates. We have the sun, the moon. We have a clock. But when you're in a different, even if you go to a wormhole, even like that movie Interstellar, when you go, when you leave Earth, time for wherever you're going is very different than what it is here on Earth, right? It's going to change. So it sounds to me like almost like wherever they are, it might be in a parallel Earth, right? Another existence, and it's just none of the things we have here now are there.
Very well said. I do believe in parallel universes. I really do.
Well, we would have to be, because the best way for me to explain heaven and hell. See, I grew up Catholic, right?
Okay.
And when you're Catholic, the belief system's that heaven's in a fluffy white area, the clouds, and hell's at the center of the earth, and it's hot there. And it makes sense because there's, we know there's a core and it's molten lava. But when you grow up, you're like, wait a minute, that can't be right. And then you start realizing that the idea that there's parallels, right? So when we die from here, my personal belief system is that when we die from here, our energy either gets recycled here because you didn't do, or it's a proving ground. You didn't do so great here. Start over. Or we need you here. You do great things. Recycle. You're here again. Or your energy goes to these other parallels where one existence might be for listen, you've had 3 strikes, you're out. You're a jabroni. You're going to the dark place. That's right. So the other one is you did great. You're going to the next place. And is it going to be great there? It's going to be wonderful there. And I think there's a lot of Earths everywhere, especially now that we're discovering more and more galaxies and universes. There's definitely more proving grounds like Earth where there's life equal to us. And same, I think it's that if you look at the design of the universe and our solar system and how everything works, without Jupiter, we would be under constant bombardment from asteroids and comets. It's too well placed. It seems like an architect made this happen.
Absolutely.
And then you look at other Earth-like planets near their sun, almost the same mechanics are taking place. And so more than we are looking for planets that might have oxygen, we're looking for planets that have a similar construct.
Yes.
So that's how I'm sitting so far anyway, how I think.
Yeah, I think you're very close. At least that's pretty much what I've thought as well. And then of course, then the other part of me goes, well, crap, do they have demons too?
Well, of course. I mean, it's going to be everywhere. There's good and bad in every example. Like, just look at the insect kingdom. It's You ever watch like a study on insects? It's crazy.
I have, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, we have it pretty good as humans, So.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Because talk about a relentless, unforgiving environment,
Woo, yeah.
So that being said, it draws my attention because at the end of the day, why do I do this podcast and why do I talk to people about paranormal, ufology, and all these different topics? I'm questioning my mortality. That's what it comes down to. I'm going to be honest. Because
I think we all do.
Yeah, you get to that point. And that's where this whole thing where we live in a world right now where identity is everything. I got to be different than this guy. I got to be better than that guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy the way we live.
Yeah. It is. It is. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that whatever is coming up it goes from when it first started out, it went from seeing the best of the best. And then as it got further into it, and that of course we started seeing the bad stuff and then the really bad stuff. And I just remember Colleen looking at me and going, if we're seeing the best of the best today, at some point we will see the worst of the worst. And I don't think I've come face to face with that just yet, but it's certainly gotten a lot worse than it used to be.
Yeah. So let me ask you, we'll touch this topic too. Okay. I ask a lot of people, extraterrestrial life. What are your thoughts on it?
I believe there is. I just can't imagine such a big, vast expanse of planets and solar systems and everything else, and us be the only people inhabiting a planet. I just I definitely believe that there are definitely what we call aliens. I couldn't tell you exactly, there's so many different theories. Some people think that they have, spaceships in the moon. Some people think that they've got them under the oceans and which honestly would not surprise me, because it's just, we haven't explored everything in the oceans and stuff. Right. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Well, put this in your mind real quick. So I have a lot of relatives and people I know that are close to me that they're, Christian and, God made here and that's it. That's holy here. I'm like, well, he's an architect. He built everything for a purpose. Why are you telling me we're the only ones? Of course he would separate us greatly. It's if an experiment had nothing less. But now put this in your head. Somewhere in another galaxy or perhaps universe, there's a planet. And on this planet, some entity, some being is now beginning to write scripture. Right? They're pretty much their Bronze Age. They obviously got away from their Stone Age, and they're primitive to us. So now, how many planets out there are behind us? They're more primitive. There could be tons. There's no. They're not using radio waves. We've only been using radio waves for 100 something years at best. So and it takes 300,000 years across the Milky Way. I've read for a radio wave. So. We haven't even gotten there yet. No,
we haven't. I mean, that's pretty cool. I hadn't thought of that. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a planet right now somewhere where it's made of water and the entities that live there can't escape their environment.
That you may very well be right.
So when I hear people, and these are people, some of them I'm related to, and they're like, nope, God made here and here only, and da-da-da, and the rest of that's the devil. I'm like, you can't approach anything with that kind of mindset. You know, if he's an almighty architect, then very well, especially if you look at our solar system. And if we didn't have our moon, its size, to our planet in distance, and Jupiter doing its job, and the other planets doing their job, there wouldn't be life here.
Exactly.
So it was, to me, it works like a machine. And we're seeing these examples in other solar systems. We're seeing mechanics here. We're seeing engineering at work. My opinion, anyway.
No, I agree with you. I really do. It's fascinating. I mean, it's really fascinating to think about it. To me, I just always thought it was, what would be the purpose of just having one planet with people on it when there's so much more out there? It just didn't seem to me like that's how it would go. Yeah, I mean,
who's making room for it now, right? Is the Vatican, right? They're constructing more and more telescopes, large ones too. I mean,
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I was reading about this. They're getting involved with the idea of space and extraterrestrial. I predict in the next decade, not only are we going to come to more discovery about it, but you're going to see more and more religions come to the idea like, all right, maybe we step up here because, my understanding anyway, is that whoever heard from God at some point, many thousands of years ago, how much could they comprehend of what he was saying? Like if I were to time travel myself, to like the 3rd century, and I'd explain Facebook to them. They'd be like, what are you talking about? It goes, this is easily the words of God, because they could only comprehend so much. Their way of thinking is much more primitive to what it is currently. So,
well, and if you think about it too, to your point, try reading Revelation sometime when John is trying to explain what he's seeing.
Right.
And that's hard to do when you're talking about something in the future that you don't know what planes are. You don't know what any of this stuff is. I mean, I can't even imagine how you would. I think he did a great job with what he had. Let's put it that way.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, if you went back in time and tried to explain to primitive man what an A-10 Warthog was, one of our jets.
Good luck.
It's a dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best he's coming with. It's a dragon. If you show them our missiles and what their capacities and nuclear bombs, it's fire and brimstone. They have no idea what they're like. That's
Armageddon.
Right. So there's no way they're going to comprehend it. Just the same as like if we were to get a dolphin and we found one dolphins are pretty intelligent creatures.
Yes, very.
Now try to teach one English.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. It's not that they're a dumb creatures, it's their perception, their abilities are, it's at the max. It's the best they're going to be able to do. So
right. Wow.
Yeah, for me, Rita, growing up in Catholic church, I I came to the realization that many, many, many years ago, somebody somewhere really enjoyed the position of explanation and power.
Absolutely.
And I think if you listen to how Jesus spoke, he didn't speak like a leader, and he didn't speak like, come to my building. He basically just sat around and wanted people to do well and speak well, and he wanted to heal. Never did he say, follow me and do as this or else, you know?
Exactly.
It's kind of crazy. So
it is.
But,
it is. And it's, I mean, I know my own journey as long as it's gone. And I know that there's bigger things coming up that I know. And I know that he guides me with it, and that I don't, and this is just me talking. This is not talking to any of my guides or anything like that. This is just me talking. I don't know that Jesus would be very happy with how things are being run.
No.
In the churches and stuff like that. He went to the people. He didn't embrace any one religion. He went to the people, and like you said, he healed this. He spoke with them. He, the lame, everything. I mean, that's all he wanted, was for us to help one another and love one another. And he was our example.
Agreed. I remember being a kid in Brooklyn, and we went to I got a communion, and I think it was St. Mary's. What a structure that building was, made of marble, had like gold fixtures, ivory. Like that building could have paid for the homeless to eat for probably a few hundred years.
Exactly.
And then you look at some of these other larger religious structures, and it's like, they definitely, like, I think if I read correctly, if I remember correctly, Jesus went to the market, he was disappointed, really upset with people, right?
Yep.
Imagine now, forget it.
Oh man. Yeah. So wasteful, and so many opportunities we could be helping people. And it's just, but again, I look at the churches and I think, why aren't you doing more to help these people? I know there's limitations. I know that there's good people out there that are trying, but I really think that some of the organized religion has made it impossible for them to really do all that they could do.
Agreed.
They're just, I'm very disappointed in that.
There's people with 6-figure jobs trying to work on the homeless situation.
Thank you. And then goes home to, however hot of a meal he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. And that troubles me a lot. And it troubles me that like, for, umpteen years, I've always felt like the Catholic religion did not want women to hold any kind of a meaningful office in the church.
No, not even in this country. That was, you're talking recent times.
Very recent. And what was it, 2015 that they finally opened up and said, look, we need more exorcisms. We just can't keep doing all of them because evil's everywhere now. Yeah. So they were asking all different kinds of religions to come in and be trained, and which is good. And we need them. We need them bad. But I mean, they still haven't really taught the people of the churches, and that they still haven't been taught yet that this stuff is real. This stuff is real. Teach warfare, spiritual warfare. Teach the people how to block this. I mean, there's just so much to it that isn't being done.
Well,
and
especially now where everyone's being distracted by devices with 30-second long joys, right?
Yes.
Imagine how easy it is to settle in there. I mean, you're talking your job and the job of most people that work with exorcism. That's your job's tough. It's really tough. I mean, there's more negative influence in the world than there is positive.
Absolutely. And I mean, look at, and I'm not putting this as a stigma. I don't mean this to be that way. I'm just saying all the shows that are on TV now that glorify the paranormal. And when I say glorify, I mean, not really teaching people that using a Ouija boards or spirit boards, whatever you want to call them, is opening portals. Yes, it does. 75% of my work comes from internet challenges that they've taken, or doing seances, doing spirit boards, just trying to see. And I get it. I get kids are curious in that, but it's not just kids doing it. And then they're of this opinion because it says in the rules of the game, I'm doing air quotes, game,
yeah,
that, you just tell it goodbye and it'll shut it down.
Yeah.
No,
I've had someone say that to me. I made an inquiry about the Ouija board, and the person I'd spoken to was like, yeah, so long as you say goodbye or whatever, it's fine. What? Where did you get? So you think some energy, let's not even call it a demon, some dark energy. You say goodbye. It's like, wait, I'm not done.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, door's still here and I'm still opening it.
Here's an example. If you get a kid, you put him on a pretty powerful, radio, and he's just aiming aimlessly out to the space. Look, whatever is visiting us now is pretty benign. Right? I mean, we've been having sightings of these things for thousands of years. We've not been killed yet. But what if that kid sends a message just to the wrong group? Like, well, there's a planet full of resources and people we could take over. I mean, it could be.
That's true.
The same can be said in here, humanity. You open your house up and you invite the wrong people, and you're going to have a problem.
You see them on the news every day.
Yeah. So,
unfortunately,
with the paranormal, I think it's made it. I don't know. I mean, for darker energies, anyway. For dark energy, I think it's made it easier for dark energy to move about because it's more accepted widely.
Well, and yes, you're exactly right. And two, they have no problem going through the technology, coming through one device and coming out another device, wherever you are across the country or whatever. They have no problems that way. It's very easy. And it's
that's a good
scary.
point. That's a good point. Because if spirits are speaking to you through a spirit box, what makes them not get into your headphones?
Oh, they do.
Then it could really whisper stuff in subtly. You wouldn't even notice.
Exactly right.
Your music would drown out the negative. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
And it can, and they do. And it's, you got to be so careful. And then, you've got the shows, and I get that, the shows on TV and that they're for entertainment. I get that. But when they're out there week after week and they're challenging things they can't see, they're giving the wrong message, because the people out here are going, that looks like fun. And you're watching a show and it's all wrapped up in 30 minutes in a nice, pretty bow. It doesn't work that way.
Certainly not. I mean, eventually I'm going to get out into I'm going to do it eventually. I have to gather more information, but I'm eventually going to do a documentary. It's just not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it would take a year, and then I realized how much ground needs to be covered. It would take me 2 years to get an adequate documentary put together. Because I'm a weird person, man. I don't know. I'm the guy that dies in a movie right away. I run right out of problems, right? So, because I gotta see. At the end of the day, sorry for my viewers or listeners or whatever. I gotta know this. You'll never in my documentary or anything I do hear me put more fascination where it doesn't belong, because then I would be dissatisfied. I got to see it because I've never witnessed anything. And I've heard people say, well, careful what you wish for. But okay, well, if it turns bad because of the network I'm creating, I could contact a Rita, I could contact a Ron, whoever I got. I'll deal with it when it comes to that. But at that point, I want to find I want the answers. I really do.
Right. Yep. I get it.
Keeps me up at night. Well, anyway, Rita, before we close out, is there anything you want to add in? Like is there anything you want to promote, like maybe a website or some way for people to contact you?
Right now I'm working on a website. I don't have it up. I had taken it down for a while. But I'm going to be starting it over again. But right now, if anybody needs help or has questions or anything, they can contact me on my email, which is sprsdirector@yahoo.com. All
right. And I'll put that in description for everyone. And for everyone listening, I'm going to talk to Rita in post. And I had a great conversation with you, Rita. I really did.
Thank you for inviting me. This has been fun.
Indeed. So hang on. We're going to talk to everyone else. Good night.